answer any questions you have. You indicated there were questions about the application. If I can answer anything else about the process or what's been gone through, I can do that. We did provide you a couple of photographs of the fence. This was probably back in January or February that those shots were taken. They're both from the street side. That is kind of standing in front of the neighbors, just onto the neighbor's property, looking to the fence as it goes towards the back, headed to the south. That's the gate that is on that fence for access to the rear. And is there a third? Yeah. And this is the same side as that first picture, a little different view. But so you've got a sense, and that's the view on the other side of the house, just a person gate, single gate on that side. And then the fence goes to the back and then around the back.
Bill?
Yes.
Oh, so when the original permit was requested,
yep.
Was there no fence at the time, and so the applicant was asking to build a fence, and if we had gotten, the permit referred to us, we could have weighed in on that, or was the fence always built already?
Well, maybe the owner could answer that. I'm looking at the photograph that we have in our file from when properties were designated, and that does not show a fence, but I do not know the answer to that question. That's good.
I guess I'm asking about the new fence. In other words, it was requested to build a 6-foot picket fence. The fence hadn't been built? The picket fence hadn't been built. I guess obviously, otherwise it would be a picket fence. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, and it would have been a 4-foot picket fence is what the building permit was.
Right, but they were following the procedure of requesting a permit before construction at that time.
They did.
Yeah.
And it was just not referred to the side of the office.
We dropped the ball internally on that.
Yes. Yes.
It's an awkward moment because now we're trying to decide what would we have said if this had come to us. I think we would have asked for a lower fence than this, and I'm sure at least in the parts that face the street, we would have asked for wood. I mean, certainly a vinyl fence would never have been an original feature.
Yeah, and then I would just add sort of to maybe complicate it or simplify it or simplify how it should have happened. We would have reviewed the 4-foot fence administratively. And I didn't see a rendering of the picket fence, but we approve 4-foot picket wood fences all the time.
Sure.
So that would have been a likely approval. When it came in as a 6-foot vinyl, I thought that's one that you better wrestle with.
Yeah. Okay.
Bill, have we ever approved any vinyl fences similar to this historically?
I do not recall a 6-foot vinyl fence like this. We've approved a maybe 8 to 12-foot section of vinyl fence in a situation that was otherwise vinyl that preceded the ordinance. But I'm not aware of a vinyl fence being approved.
Seems like I remember a compromise having to do with the Johnson's fence, where there was some fence material that was put in, and then it was ahead of a COA, and so we came to some level of compromise where there's probably, I can't remember the specifics, but there's probably some vinyl left there.
I do, Nick. I think they had ordered it, and the impression we had was that it had been mocked up, somewhere and was ready to be delivered. And I think we came back and said, well, let's allow the vinyl kind of in the back, but where it doesn't show. But we asked them to replace their gate on their driveway with a wooden gate. And I think they agreed to that, and you're right, it was a compromise, but
And it was a 3.5 or 4 foot fence. It was-
I was gonna say, no, it certainly wasn't 6 feet.
So, yeah, just, yeah. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Thanks.
Speaking only for myself, I would be inclined to ask that the parts that face the street would be replaced with wood. But I admit I'm conflicted because the 6 feet just doesn't match, the style of the housing or anything else. It feels like there's two things wrong. One is that it's so tall, and the other is that it is made of vinyl. And I don't think we can resolve that by asking for parts of it to be switched out to wood. Although that would be a possibility. Does the owner feel that switching I think we have 2 gates, a driveway gate and a personnel gate. Switching those to wood would be a hardship or difficult to, that's not the word I meant to use, but would that be agreeable?
Are you saying a 4-foot wood fence or gate or a 6-foot?
I think the 4 foot, it would be what would be more appropriate if we're changing it anyway.
I think
That's
that,
only my opinion. I'm open to it.
I understand. And again, I don't believe that Olga did any of this maliciously.
No,
I believe that looking at the gates from the road, that the vinyl has the appearance of wood if it was painted.
Yeah, I think we appreciate that, Richard, but the truth is vinyl is not allowed for a number of reasons. It doesn't age in the same way that wood ages. It's not the historic material, and it's generally not permitted. And it obviously, for a commission like the Historic District Commission, when we start kind of just going like, oh yeah, the vinyl looks kind of similar to wood from the street, it becomes a very slippery slope as a matter of fairness to everybody who lives in the district. When we try to steer projects away from things like vinyl siding or vinyl pickets on railings and vinyl windows and all the things that come in vinyl nowadays. And so this is where we get really caught up, or not caught up, but stuck in an uncomfortable moment, as John said, relative to the sequencing of this going through City Hall and not making it over to our process in the first place, where we would have absolutely coached, away from vinyl. And yet, we understand that we're in a different situation now. And I'm not speaking for the rest of the commission either, but I'm ill at ease with this idea that vinyl starts to look passable as wood, because that just becomes a slippery slope for us.
what about, and I'm open to any other ideas, asking the owner to replace the 2 panels that face the street. I realize there's an awful lot of linear feet of fence here, that it would be quite an expense to replace all of it, but I wonder if replacing that which is truly facing the public. I guess I'm glad it's not a corner house, because that would be awkward. But since it's a mid-block house, how about replacing that with wood and going down to the more traditional 4-foot level? Would that work?
John, I would like to pick up on that thought and ask the commission, and maybe Phil as well, what is the historic background that makes us favor a 4-foot over a 6-foot? This is a topic that I'm a little bit ignorant on and don't understand exactly why we would prefer a 4-foot. Is it just the neighborliness of being able to see across yards, or is there something else going on there?
I can give you my opinion. Pierre, did you want to say something, Pierre? You're muted.
You're muted, Pierre.
There you go.
There you go.
All right. In the past, I had looked into a fence for my house. And as long as you did not go past the front of your house, 6 foot was acceptable. And from the front of your house to the street, it had to be 4 feet. And that was by city ordinance at one time. But in my yard, my neighbor has that at 300 Washington has put in a 6 foot fence pretty much all the way around. And where it connects in my yard, there's a 6 foot fence halfway to my house. So, but it's all wood. I think that I would be okay with them leaving the 6 foot gate and the 6 foot entry on the other side, but it would be preferable to be wood.
I think we could hear you, Pierre, but you're kind of breaking up. But we understood what you said. Thank you. And that's funny. I'm looking out the front window, looking at your fence, and yes, well, it's fairly decorative though. It's 6 feet, but the top foot or so is kind of a lattice, and I can see that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Well,
I'm just having this sort of feeling. I'm looking at the fence and I'm setting aside the material for the moment, right? We can talk about vinyl versus wood versus other materials, but I don't have any strong reaction to 6 versus 4. And I don't know why, if I'm supposed to like 4 more, I'm not sure on what basis that would come from. I don't know why that would be, but I might just be missing some historical insight or detail that I'm just ignorant on. But yeah, the 6, to my eyes, it's more private, it's more secluded. I get that there's less of a neighborly interaction, but I'm not having any strong reactions to the higher fence. And I'm looking out my window and seeing both versions, 6 and 4. And I'm just not coming up with an opinion that in either direction there.
Nick, now that you word that way, I have the same feeling. I think what I'm mixing up with it is that the permit was for 4 feet, so 6 feet is wrong in that respect. On the other hand, would we approve the 6 feet? And the answer, it may be yes. Phil, if you know, would there be any zoning question about 6 feet, or would that be acceptable to the building department?
That would be acceptable. The location of the fence back at the back corner of the property, or at least of this side of the property, that's perfectly allowable as a height. If it were in front of the face of the front of the building, I would agree with what Pierre said. There's a maximum height in the front yard of a fence, but once you get past the face of the building, you can go up to 6 feet.
Okay. Okay. Kind of strike that from your memory then, because I don't think that's important. I think Nick makes a really good point. But so let's go back to, could the parts that face the street, both I'm assuming it's a driveway we're looking at right now. Is that right? Am I looking at a driveway?
Yeah, if you go back to the second picture, maybe, or first picture. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, perfect. So could that one and the personnel gate on the far side both be switched out to wood? And would people feel like we could approve that, even though it's sort of after the fact? Given that it's our fault, really, that it's the city's fault that we didn't perceive this.
Yeah, I think that, that's a great point, John, that, yes, there's a process, and yes, we have to have a consistent and fair expectation that, that homeowners follow that process. But then if the city has a mishap like this, we need to take that into consideration if we're kind of steering towards a compromise.
Okay, sure.
I'd be on board with that compromise.
Okay, so at least so far, it looks like we're headed toward asking the homeowner to replace the driveway gate and the personnel gate with a wooden version, which of course could be white or whatever color they choose. That's, is the homeowner willing to do that? I sort of threw that out because I'm not sure who I'm sending it to, but.
Esther, you're muted if you want to say something.
Yes, so the
Okay.
question is, when they put, so say that you agree that they can keep the 6 foot on the east, west and south side, but on the north side, the entries, those doors would be wood. And would the gate at the front have to be 6 feet or 4 feet?
I think we're agreeing that either would be fine, that the 6
Okay.
foot that they seem to prefer would be acceptable.
Okay.
If they'd like, and the 4 foot would be equally acceptable. But I suppose if the design is to create privacy, then you would want it to be continuous. But we
Yeah,
would
and
just,
I would advocate for an administrative approval to make sure that the transition to from 4 feet to 6 feet is handled properly.
Mhm.
Just to make sure that it doesn't
You wanna
happen in
keep
an
it 6
abrupt way that we,
Así que igual.
¿Qué? Porque ya no se despegan esos bloques. Entonces ya es conservable.
But it would certainly be easier, I would think, to replace them with the same size gates, because then the hinges and everything would all work, but
Everything will still line up.
yeah.
Mhm. So,
I think we're saying they may have either height, but now that we talk about it a minute, the 6 foot height makes sense. Does anybody disagree or?
so they're saying, están diciendo 6 pies enfrente, en las puertas de enfrente. So would there be, so given the fact that they've made this large investment, is there an opportunity to provide a longer timeline to replace the north entrances, the entrance exit areas? The issue is a financial issue. They made a pretty large investment up front, and I don't know how soon you would want them to replace the front. How flexible are you on that?
We've had this question come up recently on another property. Let me put it to you this way. If you get a certificate of appropriateness approved today, it is good for 1 year. So the expectation is we'd certainly like to see it as soon as possible, but technically you have a year to make that improvement.
That makes sense to me. Which really would give us almost 2 building seasons to accomplish it.
Okay.
That was a thing. I think somebody filled it out for her wrong.
Okay.
So that was a mistake in the beginning.
So what they're saying is they're willing to make the north entrances wood, 6 foot wood as per your request. They would like to have that year timeline. It is a significant burden and expense for them after they've made already an initial investment. So we want to make sure, they want to make sure that as they go into this next phase of the project, that there will be something in writing that says, this is what you need to do. This is by when it needs to be finished. And they understand the process, like who needs to see it, because they don't want to go through this again, it's kind of expensive mistake.
Sure. And I would suggest when the commission gets to the point of making the motion, I would suggest that this be reviewed administratively prior to installation so we can see what it is they've come up with for the gates on the fence. But the certificate of appropriateness will indicate that there's a year to do that, to do the installation and the expectation on the fence. And presumably it will be a fence that then I will review once you've come up with the alternative in wood. for both sides of the house on the front. I think you'll have all that information in hand. The permit, I'll talk with the building office. I suspect you're not going to need an additional building permit to do this. I think they'll work with the permit you have. They probably still need to revise that permit to reflect what was actually built on the rest of the fence. But we'll make it clear to them that that this portion of it is going to be wood.
So Phil, how soon would they be able to get that certificate of appropriateness?
Usually it takes 2 or 3 days.
Okay. Okay, give me 1 minute.
Yep. And commission members, if I'm saying anything you don't agree with, speak up and let me know.
No, I think everything makes sense. And there's no reason, I mean, if we approve this, there's no reason for them to have to come back to the commission.
Yeah, they're okay with that. They just want to be able to bring a sample of a wood sample so that
Sure.
it can be approved, and they just want to make sure they have clear direction.
That's
Sure. And Esther, that can go right to Phil. That doesn't need to come back to the commission.
Yes.
Great. So I can't make a motion, but anybody else can.
How would this work? There's a possible motions in either direction, but we're kind of going in a middle direction here. Are we denying just the front, or?
I think you could approach this as a motion to approve the east, west, and south side, the fence on the east, west, and south sides. And a condition of the approval is the modification on the north side to be a wood material for review and approval by staff at 6 foot height.
I think that's what we're agreeing to. I see the point, though. It's kind of neither fish nor fowl. It's an approval, though, I think, as opposed to a denial, I think.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 6 foot vinyl fence around the entire perimeter of the yard as it's already constructed, except for the street facing sections of fence, including the gates, which are to be replaced with a wood material at 6 feet to align with the existing vinyl sections. And pending a administrative approval to review and approve the sample material, which is going to be wood. And I will cite Secretary of Interior's standard number 9, New additions, exterior alterations, or related new constructions shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. So that goes for the fence as built, except for the condition of the street facing sections that I referenced that need to be replaced in wood.
I'll support.
It's moved and supported. Are there any other comments or questions? Those in favor of the motion as made, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, everybody. That was good work. Well done.
Thank you for coming, everybody. And
Yeah.
you know, it's a regrettable situation, but we occasionally get these ones, and our aim has to be consistency and fairness. And it happens more than anybody would like, and so we're striving for that.
Well put, Nick. Very good.
Thank you. Is there anything
you.
more that I should convey to our residents?
Just watch for the certificate of appropriateness.
Okay,
We have an email address for Richard. I do not have one for Mrs. Guillen or her daughter. So
is there an email
I'll do one.
address?
I'll do
Okay.
it.
I will get an email address,
Okay.
so that can be sent, be sent via email?
typically,
Perfect.
yes. Yep.
Okay. All right. I will send it to you, in an email later on.
Okay. Terrific.
Thank
That sounds good.
Thank you, Esther. That's very nice.
Okay. Is there
Thank
anything
you.
else? We all set?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
You bet.
Thank you.
Next item of unfinished business is a certificate of appropriateness application for 111 West 13th Street, Amy Lund for Third Reformed Church. I think we discussed this and then tabled it twice or three times. And I don't know, Amy's with us, I think.
Believe so.
And Amy would, sorry, Phil, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I'm not sure how this works remotely, but Amy did deliver a sample of the material.
Oh, okay.
I'll let her describe it. But we do have a sample in hand, a heavy sample.
Yeah, it's very heavy.
I was gonna say, I'm
It
impressed,
is.
Phil.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you much more than that. Maybe it's better to hear directly from Amy.
Okay, I will just give a recap. Our steps that exit our building onto Pine Street, they are made out of limestone. They were put in 1952, we believe, but I can't get a specific. We know it was not original to the actual sanctuary. They are deteriorating rapidly to the point where it's going to be a trip and fall hazard. And so I started doing some research, talked to you guys. You asked for stone for stone like material. And, you know, I learned really interesting things in this job. Did you know that the Sphinx in Egypt was most likely made from precast stone? I had no idea. I didn't know people studied that. So, all new stuff for me. So what I did in my research is the goal is to have like material so that we maintain the look, but hopefully find material that will last and not deteriorate under snow melt, which is the main problem. Limestone just, it dissipates rather rapidly under snow melt nowadays. Because it's not what it used to be. They probably used sand back in the day, is my guess. But so I found that you can do precast limestone, which is not cement. It is crushed limestone that's mixed with something called Portland cement, which is actually what they used on the Sphinx. I don't think they called it Portland cement back then though. And the advantages to this material are that you can color it to match what is currently there versus if you go with limestone, it's probably going to be brighter because it has not weathered yet. And more to my point, you can put salt on it so that people don't slip and fall on ice and it won't deteriorate like this limestone here has deteriorated. It can be put into blocks just like we have here and installed so that we would still have that brick pattern that you see. So that's what I'm bringing to you folks. That bottom step there that you see, that is actual cement, the very bottom step, the one that's not broken up. Yeah.
All right. Amy, can I ask, would the bottom step then also be replaced with the new product?
We could.
Okay. I mean, I'm just
I don't
thinking.
know why we couldn't. I never thought about
Thinking
that.
out loud that I think someone said in a very positive way, gee, look at all the effort and expense that people went to back in 1952 to give you this. And then I don't know what happened at the bottom step, but
I'd like to find the people from 1952 and wring their necks because not helpful to me, but
well,
yeah, they did go to effort and expense. So, and I'm kind of splitting this up. I want to get a materials okay from you folks so that we can start figuring out how we're going to finance this. And then I will be coming back to you with a request regarding putting in a center railing, but I think we can safely split those two up.
You want to hold up? Okay.
So I'll hold up on that because if you okay this, then I kind of know what I'm going for. If we have to do limestone, I don't think that we can. I don't know that we can do that. And it just seems like we'd be pouring our money down the drain. So I'm hoping this precast sure felt like real limestone to me. So I could really heavy piece
can
of
I
rock.
ask, Phil, the piece you had wasn't really this thick, but Amy, you're saying it would be as thick as these blocks that.
It would, yes. As
Okay.
thick as these blocks. It can be as thick as you want it to be.
Is your thought to do the same, like 3 and then 2 and then 3 and then 2 as you go up?
Yep. I would ask them to make it exactly like this.
Wow.
And I think we would also maybe take the time, I can't promise because I'm a church. We're not necessarily in the business of having tons of money, but I would like to clean those side columns. Because that's also limestone. You see how it's darker on the left than it is on the right, and it's from the trees.
Oh, okay.
So I'd like to clean those up a little bit so we could have a color match to what the material is. I don't know. Do you have rules against that?
I'm sorry, against cleaning it?
Yeah.
Oh, heavens no.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
No.
I'd like to clean
But
that.
There's we don't have rules, but there are ways to do it that are gentler on the stone versus not. So you might want to do some research there, and if you want help from that standpoint, we might be able to assist, administratively. But there are things that you can do in the process of cleaning that actually can damage it.
Yeah, I don't want to just take a power washer to it and blow it away. So yeah, I would look into that. But yeah, so the goal is to have steps that look fabulous like they did, but aren't going to fall apart when we put salt on them, and that people can safely go up.
Certainly. Well, I walked by this building, that set of stairs easily 10 times since we first discussed it. And I'm speaking only for myself. I'm very pleased to know that there is a product that would give us the limestone, at least appearance. I mean, in fact, limestone, but not, I don't know, man, I'd yield to Nick or somebody who knows more about is this a product you've seen, Nick? Or
yeah, precast stone is very common. You can probably see lots of precast stone around the newer buildings at Hope College. It is a good product. It's pretty convincing in most cases. I think one of the downfalls of it is sometimes it looks too perfect. That makes sense. You get that kind of machined industrial production process going, and it turns out just perfect with no imperfections or anything. And that's where it sort of betrays it in the end. But if you get really close up to it, you can see kind of like the aggregate that might be used to tie everything together as well. So it's less of a, homogeneous, like a limestone type of thing. But it is a sounds like you've done some great research, and you would be going the route of a lot of institutions and churches and similar uses if you were to kind of go down that path. And I think just kind of in my hearing about your research and about your proposal, I'm appreciating that you're looking to replicate the joint pattern, and finding big solid chunks of this stuff as opposed to a thin veneer that would just sort of clad a concrete step below it.
Oh, that doesn't work. Don't believe me, I checked into it. I'm also in charge of the budget, but no, that doesn't work. It has to be a solid material. So
Dick, to one of the points you made, and I'm not sure if you can see it, probably not in this light, but the aggregate in this sample is very, very fine.
Yeah.
It's a nice sample.
yeah, he said he'd leave a sample for me on these steps. And my first thought was, wow, that's a really big sample. I was hoping for something lighter, but it really does. I mean, it looks like limestone. I was really surprised because I didn't want to bring something to you guys that just looked stupid. So I took a moment to compare.
Yeah, and I mean, we want to wring the necks of the people in the 50s, but we're also 70 years down the road. So just to be fair to limestone, I want to throw a little bit of caution at the idea that this stuff is even more durable under snow melt in the long run. Maybe it is, but I don't know.
Yeah. It did last 70 years. You're right. Super expensive, but yeah, you're right. So
I admit I'm moved by the fact that Amy asked stonemasons and they didn't recommend replacement. I mean, they had every chance to make some money, but didn't take it. So that I think that's go ahead.
I suppose, but I think that our building culture has moved away from using authentic materials quite a bit. And there's some echo going on. Pierre, can you hit mute?
Just for a few minutes, Pierre.
I don't know what's going on here. I think I did now.
No, yeah, you did hit it. Yeah, good, Pierre. Don't go away.
Yeah, I also have a bit of caution around, and I know that we recommended that you talk to Potts Masonry, and they're the experts that do this every day for a living. So I think we want to be deferential to those experts, but we also, there's a saying, they don't make them like they used to. And it's the experts making things today that don't make them like this anymore. And so it is harder to come by real limestone. It's more expensive because it's an exotic thing. And I think that we just need to be kind of cautious about going to the mainstream building culture and saying, oh, well, that's what everybody's doing, therefore that's the right approach when we're taking care of a historic building. Because sometimes conventional wisdom that has gone along with typical construction approaches just doesn't really match some of the priorities that we talk about on this commission. It's just a word of caution. But I think, I'm of two minds, John. I agree with you. I would defer to those masons too for a question like this and put a lot of stock in what they say.
I would like to add that we have the option to go with limestone. But the reason he brought up the precast is because they're steps. I think if it were something that was on the face of the building in a different position, it would have been a different conversation. Did you know most of the limestone that we get comes from Indiana? That's also
Absolutely.
something that I learned.
Yeah,
That I think that came into play when we were talking about that they were steps and people walk on it. That's what came into play versus like the stone around the doorway. We don't have to put salt or chemicals on that because people aren't going to walk on it.
if you look at Martha Miller, I'm pretty sure all the stone articulations on that entire building are precast, and that's one of the best buildings in town. I mean, as far as traditional architecture goes, and it's only like 3 years old.
It's older than that, but yeah.
Or 5 or whatever. It's a modern building, but it's very well done precast stone.
Mm-hmm.
Grace Episcopal has Indiana limestone that's about this old. I think it was 1953. But now that you say it, Amy, none of it is where you would walk. It's all inside walls. So
right, it's gorgeous. It's right by my house.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is it? Yeah.
One of the things that I'm just curious about is whether when they cast it, will it have slightly rounded edges? I mean, I'm just looking at that sample Phil had, and I'm thinking, wow, if these were like, perfectly edged, 90-degree corners, it might look a little weird. Now, I don't know if they have that option to make them look in this slightly rounded, like kind of like the old steps, or if that's even desirable. Nick could weigh in on that too, but it just seems if I was suddenly looking at these crisp, perfectly engineered stairs, it might be a jolt.
I think they have to make the mold for the cast. I think that is required. So it's going to be individual to each job. And so if we want to spec that it should have rounded edges, we could do that because they have to build that mold. Because these aren't like standard step height. You're not going to walk through this and be like, oh, that's the international 6 3/4 inch riser.
Right.
So
John, I'd like to just suggest a possibility you might want to consider on the handrail. I think previously Amy had indicated that it was going to be very similar to the handrails that exist on either side. I would suggest it be an administrative approval, assuming that it is presented in a fashion that is compatible with, similar in style to the handrails on the side of the steps. And that would save her a trip to the commission.
That makes sense to me. Does anybody feel otherwise?
I'll just note there may be a code issue about the overrun of the handle of the handrail as it crosses the bottom riser and top riser for that matter, just with newer codes. But we can work through that. And if it seems like a problem, we can come back to you. But I think we can work through that.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's our action, everyone? Should we?
Well, I can make a motion to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted and for testimony for the rehabilitation at 111 West 13th Street as proposed based on the local guidelines and the Secretary of Interior Standard Number 9, that new additions and exterior alterations or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work is restoration and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and environment. We also, I guess we've already seen the material, so we don't need approval for the material, but we would like to have a submitted detail for the proposed center railing for administrative approval.
I'll support that motion.
Moved by Cook and supported by Lambers. Are there any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, please indicate approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'll say nay.
Okay. We have enough, we had a quorum anyway, right, Phil?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I couldn't distinguish Pierre's vote. I wasn't sure if he was muted or.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Voted.
Pierre, if you would unmute and let us know how you voted to be sure.
I voted to support.
Okay, thank you.
Motion carried then.
Yes.
Amy, are you understanding where we are on this? Or
So we are okay?
yes,
Yep, we'll get you a,
With the precast limestone, and
yes.
then when we get to the point of, because the mason doesn't have anything to do with the railing. That's, I have to contact.
Okay.
Then I'll get a drawing to you guys and look into what's required by code for the
Yes,
railing.
that can come back to Phil and we won't need to see it, Amy. Thank
Okay.
you.
Cool,
Yep,
thank
and
you very much. I appreciate
Amy,
it.
you should just check there's a sentence on the certificate of appropriateness that says to make sure
my.
you've gotten all
Oh, yeah.
building permits that are necessary. So you just
Yep.
want to make sure there isn't something needed for this.
Well, and don't look for construction next week. Now that I got the okay, I need to get the funding, so.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Good luck.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Amy.
Thank you, Amy. The next item is under new business. It's a certificate of appropriateness application for 61 West 14th. Dan and Kat Schulte. It's a modified second floor north facade, which is the rear of the house to accommodate interior renovations.
I will run through this, and there's also an added component that we received earlier today.
Okay.
Which is a window on the front facade that I'll come to as well. On the back facade, the intent is to essentially swap the center door with the western window on the back facade. The dimensions change, so there's some dimensional work that needs to be done. But as you can see, the door's in the center on that second floor. Was in the center. Yeah, door's in the center, and that the window on the right is the one that would be shifted over to where the door is, and that one would match, essentially match the window on the left. So you'd have two matching windows and then a door in the right location. The materials are intended to all match what's on the existing facade, trim work, etc. Is all as per what they've got existing there. Wood windows as well, wooden door. I would, if you could go to the front facade, that's maybe a little, well, it's pretty straightforward as well. On the front facade, there is a window in a room that they're providing a bathroom. You can see it on that lower picture. In the center of the house, the intent, that's a wood window, existing wood window, and they are requesting coming back with a vinyl window that would have the same sort of lattice work on it, but a vinyl work, because if you just go up a little higher on that picture, Mallory, you can see that is the location of the window. It's within the shower enclosure, and they're concerned about the damage from moisture within the shower. So they're proposing that would be a vinyl window to match as closely as they can the existing window, and include the trim work in it as well. I don't know, Dan, anything I missed or anything you want to add?
Oh, thanks a lot, Phil. I mean, you summarized it pretty well. The intent, obviously on the back of the house where there's no moisture considerations there, we're gonna, like for like materials. We love living in the historic district and we're excited to do some work on the house, and just extend the time that we get to stay here with our family. So the back where there's no concern about moisture, it's really just, it's about the interior layout in terms of the interior renovations we're doing. And yeah, so I think definitely, the contractor has told us that the vinyl will really hold up a lot better in terms of the shower. And we've been on describing that to the window manufacturer, and they're telling us they can match the lattice work on that front facade window. So I think that'd be the ask. I know that's probably the more sensitive topic, or maybe both are sensitive, I'm sure. But yeah, that's kind of the project in a nutshell. What's going on, guys, inside the house is just an interior master suite that we're building on the back of the house. It gives the kids their own bathroom and it gives us our own bathroom. Right now it's a 1.5 bathroom. This puts it at a 2.5 bathroom, gives us some privacy from our 9 and 6-year-old son, which we dearly desire.
Can I ask, Phil, do we have a quorum if I were to abstain from this one? Is that we would be all right? We'd still be able to have a vote?
We'd still have 4 members, yes.
Okay, because Dan and Kathy, I don't know if you remember, we interacted at some point on this project. And so it might be more appropriate if I don't vote, even though I'm not working on it.
Yep, that's fine, Nick. We appreciate the support. I think you were involved when we were talking about maybe a more significant renovation on the back, right? When we were
Sure.
talking about the larger master.
Okay, I guess the commission ought to vote to excuse Nick from this discussion, conversation.
Do we have such a motion?
So moved, or I move that we excuse Nick from voting on this COA.
Moved by Cook and supported by Fowler, I think.
Yes.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, carried. Thanks, Nick. Always
Thank you.
best to avoid conflict or even the appearance of. I'm struck by the fact that usually when we talk about someone's windows, we say we don't really so much care what is on the inside of the window, but we would like the outside to present as wood. Now, that said, I can't recall ever hearing of a window that was clad on the inside, but not on the outside. And maybe there's no such thing. But has the homeowner considered that at all, or is that a?
Maybe, John, can you be, sorry for my terminology might not be with you. When you say clad, our intent would be on the outside for the wood trim to remain as the front facade. So you would still have wood trim around it. It would just be that the material of the window, especially interior to the home, would be something more robust to water.
Okay, I understand. So you're saying that the sash itself would be either made out of or clad in vinyl?
Yes.
Okay. And as I said, I've only heard of the reverse, where someone wants the vinyl on the outside in order to protect it from weather. And we've said, gosh, how about painting it instead and keeping it, but I'm not, I'm not suggesting anything because I don't think there's a product where the inside would be clad, or the inside of the windows would be clad and the outside wouldn't. I think the opposite is possible, but not.
Yeah, Jan, have you requested that of the people that you're working with for the windows to see if they have a product that is still wood on the outside, but has the look or functionality that you're going for on the inside?
Yeah, from what we've talked to the window supplier, and this is via the contractor helping us with the project. He was saying that the window material is kind of consistent throughout, but the way we can trim the window will be, that wood surround around the perimeter, can remain wood, essentially hiding the vinyl from showing on the outside, if that makes sense.
Does that
Yeah,
window open? Does the sash open?
It does. Yeah, you can. We don't open it, but you can open it.
I mean, I'm just brainstorming here, but it almost seems like you could install like a storm window on the inside, to John's point, where the window, if you're not worried about the window opening, you could actually just protect the whole interior window from the shower weather.
yeah, I like that idea more, especially if there's not anything functional or any deterioration with the current window itself. I think a vinyl window guy will say that he can get it to look as close as he can, but you're always going to tell that that's not an original window. It's not going to look the same. So I would hate to see that window go or change, and kind of stick out. It's such a focal point of the house too, such an important piece that it'd be hard to replace that and lose it.
There again, I'm just struck by the fact that it's not the outside that he's concerned with, it's the inside. And generally speaking, the inside isn't something that concerns us. We just want the outside to remain as authentic as possible.
And that's why it's so hard for me to say that we
Mhm.
can lose this window, and
Yeah.
swap it out, for an interior design change. When there's no current need exterior wise or function wise to replace it.
Good, Justin. Thank you. Dan, can I ask, is that window, what's the condition of the window? If we were standing on your porch roof there, what would we say about the wood that is facing the street?
I think it could use a fresh coat of paint, but I don't think there's any integrity issues to the window.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't bring it. I wouldn't bring it as a case of the window needs replacement. Yeah, it would benefit from a nice fresh coat of paint, but besides that, it's in good shape.
Okay, good. And if I could ask, what is the lattice that's in the top half? Is that something that, where does that occur? Is that inside the window or outside, or is it actual tiny little diamond shaped panels?
Yeah, so it occurs on the inside. The wood lattice is textured on the inside. You can feel it from the interior of the window. I believe the outside of the window is flush, just glass.
Okay. It's one piece of glass then. It's not a bunch of little pieces.
That's my understanding. Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I'm hearing members say if there's a way to do what you want to do without replacing the wood that faces the street, that would really be a plus.
Yeah, I think our counsel from our contractor was just to not cause damage to the window. So this is maybe the only other piece we haven't really touched on is building that into a shower and making sure we don't expose it to moisture, from the weather of the shower. I think that was a big kind of driver of the concern. I'm definitely hearing what you guys are saying of maybe a storm window on the inside, which I can certainly take back as a creative idea. I think how much space we need to build inside of it. I'm not a builder, so I don't necessarily know, but our intent is to, just not have moisture and mold occur inside the wall and cause ourselves a bigger problem down the road. I think we can certainly look at a way to treat it, I guess, would be maybe, or protect it, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, I would encourage you to do a little bit more research to find something that's, there might be a solution out there of, I know there's wood composite windows and some things that really kind of reach towards that, that look, that have a little bit less maintenance than real wood. That would certainly be a better option than vinyl.
So does the committee have any recommendations on that? Because admittedly, I think we defaulted to what the contractor was recommending here. I'm extremely flexible on material. You know what I mean? Like, I would like to avoid putting a storm window inside my shower. I think that could look horrendous. And so, I'd like to, do you guys have a recommendation on either manufacturers or, like you mentioned, wood composite? I would be happy to take a recommendation here as well.
I guess when I was thinking, when I said, storm window on the shower, I mean, I'm just brainstorming, but I'm almost thinking like a plexiglass or some thing that's, maybe screwed onto the window frame. I mean, is the shower stall going to be tiled, or what's going on in there?
Yeah, it'll be a tile surround inside there.
Because you could, you can strip off whatever. I assume that there's a trim around the window on the interior. It would have a molding and everything else. And I mean, again, I'm just thinking off the top of my head that if you just strip that away and then installed something that was almost like, again, maybe it's even a sheet of plexiglass that's flush with the tile, or again, I haven't ever done this. We have a wooden shower, or we have a wooden window in our bathroom that it's near the tub but not right in the shower, and we open it all winter long, let it breathe, but it's worked for 40 years and never had problems. But anyway, I guess at least for me, I'd be saying, is there a solution that doesn't do anything to the outside of the house, but meets your needs on the inside? And again, it could be a glass inset that just simply shed the water.
Yeah, actually, that's not stuff we discussed, but that could look pretty decent in terms of just like people do glass in showers all the time. So like a pane of glass that's flush with the tile.
There's a product called Indo, INDOW. They're out of Portland, Oregon, and they will send you a sample of a gasketed interior storm. And it's exactly what you want. And actually what they actually offer it in different opacities. So you can get a totally opaque or a tinted or shaded. And speaking as a guy who's got a window in my shower, I sure wish I had not a totally transparent window there.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, Nick, you bring up a good point. That was actually something also, the window, and apologies for this. It's noted in the document, but the window is less than 5 feet off the ground. And the other concern that brought us to a new window here was the need for tempered glass in a shower. So I can't speak to the building codes, but my contractor, I was just rereading that as was on the screen. I think we can solve for maybe do you know if this Indo company might also make not only frosted glass, but tempered glass?
You wouldn't want the tempered in the Indo product, because tempered is only for, impact resistance and safety and stuff. And this thing will literally manually pop in and out of your wood window casing. So it being tempered really isn't going to benefit anybody from a safety standpoint.
Okay.
But because you're not making any hard modifications to the window anymore, you may no longer be beholden to retrofitting an old window to current code. In other words, you may be grandfathered in on that window now if you don't touch the window. I'm not sure about that. You'd have to check with the guys in the third floor, but if you did a window, you could legit say to them, you're not disturbing that window, you're leaving it as is.
Okay. And then it would just be down to the question about code and safety of whether they still regard it as, hey, you don't need to be tempered because we're grandfathered in.
That's what I would do. And if it were me, I would try to get the grandfather without disturbing that historic window, see where I get with that. But the city can get better advice on that than I can.
Agreed, Nick. And I would guess, I mean, I assume we have some casing on the inside that probably wants to go and, either be replaced with tile or something else, but that again, doesn't impact the window itself, I don't think.
And with the endo, that casing could even, I mean, obviously with the shower project, it changes, but those basically the interior jambs of the window could be what they are today, and you'd be able to do the endo.
Yeah, that's great, Nick. So I wrote down the name of the company, INDOW, but it was a gasketed. Would you mind just describing it one more time?
I'm going to drop it into a chat. Is there a chat box here for everybody?
Yeah, there is.
Where the heck is that?
Oh, wait, actually, usually on Zoom there is.
No, there's actually not on this one. Sorry.
Okay, Mallory, can I reply this? Can I send this to you and you send it out to Dan here?
Yeah, I can get it to Dan.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Nick. Yeah, guys, I think you get the picture hopefully from me. The intent, the spirit of this is we love the way the window looks from the outside. We don't want to disturb it. That's totally, not the intent. So I'm really happy to have some solutions to explore.
Great.
And the beauty of the endo is it pops in and out manually with just a little bit of force because it's a rubber gasket that's custom sized to your jambs. And so from a mold standpoint in the shower environment, you can pop that sucker out and clean in there whenever you need to.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm picturing is it's like we would just basically rebuild the inside of the window with tile, size the endo insert to cover that essentially and protect the wood window from moisture. And then anytime you need to like dust in there, clean in there, you can just pop it out, right? Is that kind of?
Yeah, and it's exactly what Mark Cook said. It's an interior storm. In fact, they call themselves, I think that's sort of how they market themselves, but it's more elegant than what we're all picturing when we think of that term.
Cool. Awesome. Well, should we talk a bit about the back? I feel like that's clear on the front facade.
I had a question on the back, that door. Did you plan on reusing the existing door, or do you have another door in mind? I didn't see any specs on what that would be.
Yeah, no, we didn't provide specs. To be honest, we just have the intent to buy a wood door as close to matching the style of what's there. But no, we don't have specs picked out.
What are we looking at there, Dan? Is that a storm door that faces?
Yeah, they're inside the home. We will reuse. So maybe, Justin, to your question, there's a beautiful solid wood door inside of that white door that you can see in that cream color. So that cream color door is a thinner wood. It's sort of feels like a screen porch type door thickness. And that, it sort of forms like a storm door barrier. That's what is exterior, but interior, there's a very thick, solid wood door that we would reuse. We would shift over to the new cutout. So the cutout dimensions would remain the same, and we would just, we would work to build another wood door that essentially is like the one that's there. We don't think that one's terribly hard to replicate, just because it's painted wood, essentially.
Are all the proposed changes to the rear only on the second floor, Dan?
Yep, they're only on the second floor.
Okay. Are there other questions for Dan?
So the two windows will look exactly the same, the two small windows, and then the door will virtually look the same. It's just it'll be in the space where the current larger window is.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. You're right, Mark.
I like
Right.
those three divider windows look so cool on those old houses. You know, it's where the upper section is divided. It's just it's a nice look.
That's 3 up and 1 down, Mark? Is
Yeah.
that- Yeah, okay. And you're not using that window because it's a different size, Dan? Or,
Yeah, the second window that will replace the door will be sized to match the window that you see on the left as we're looking at the visual here. So it would be basically rebuild a wood window that's exactly matching the one on the left where the door
Okay.
is. And
Great.
then the door goes where the window on the right is.
Yep, understood.
That seems pretty straightforward.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a good view of it right there. So you see the 3 up, 1 down replicated,
Yeah.
and then the door on the right. Yep.
And the railing doesn't change any, Dan?
No, I mean, there's it's actually in really good shape structurally. You know, to be honest, I think with this project, we haven't quite figured out yet if we're going to need to fully repaint, but we are kind of betting that we're going to. And so it might get a different color of paint on it, guys, but like structurally, the railing's in good shape.
Fine.
It's going to stick around.
Great. Any other questions or concerns for Dan?
And what kind of timeline are you looking at for approval? I think kind of the way I'm leaning right now is that the back looks good, but I think we want to look at some other options for that window in the front. So maybe table this till next month, see what else you can provide us by then. Is that going to work with kind of your schedule?
Yes, and maybe Justin, maybe what we could do today is if the back is approvable as submitted, I'd welcome that to be granted and bring back a second COA for the front should we need to touch the exterior at all. I took away from this conversation that may no longer be needed if we go with the Indo insert. And so if it's acceptable to you guys, I'd rather just take and take and separate the front from the back and say, if the back looks okay, let's go with that. And the front, I think I'm taking away from this, the goal should be to either bring back with, some more homework, a new submission that considers the fact that we might need to change the window or whatever. I'm going to talk to the guys on the 3rd floor about whether we need tempered glass in the shower, if we can get that grandfathered with the historic district. So if it's acceptable to you guys, let's separate front and back would be my ask today. Take the one that we can approve and follow up later if we need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil, kind of this window was added after kind of the agenda went out to us. Is this a separate COA or is this the same one, or
Well, I think
how would that look?
you could wrap it all into one, and we can amend the COA or amend the application to add the front window if and when it needs to be revised.
But I mean, I think Dan is right. In my mind, we can just approve the current request, which didn't even include the front window. And then
Yes, can.
he doesn't have to do anything with the front window. If he works out something on the interior, it would but then he would need a separate COA if he felt there was a need to adjust the outside front window. Is that correct?
I think you could do it either way.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know if this window was thrown into this COA or if this was just an additional item kind of to talk about. I didn't want to approve the whole thing if that was a part of it.
Right. you need to be specific about the window. Either don't include it in this COA or table that aspect of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I guess there, guys, I mean, I didn't write it up on the COA. So I think the COA that's submitted, Phil was gracious enough to let me talk about the window here as an add-on, a late add. But the COA was just, kind of current, or was just the rear. So I do think that's the cleanest way if we keep it that way.
Yep.
Yeah, and the
Yeah, I
motion
agree.
that is Phil put in there is strictly for the second floor rear facade changes. So if we use that wording, we don't have to do anything more. Unless, Phil, you think we need to talk about it somehow, but it's certainly not in the motion.
No, it's not in the motion now. I think I think you're good to go on the back and let the front window play itself out, see what it needs to be.
Does anyone else on the commission feel any need to have any kind of administrative approval for the back door or window or anything like that? Or are we good to go with what we have here with no specs on that?
That's a good question, Justin. What do we
The
have?
proposal does say that the patches will match existing materials, including siding, trim, door, and window material and design. So
Okay.
you have that line that's covered. So I'm comfortable with just calling that out in the motion to approve, unless anybody else wanted a second set of eyes before it was finally selected.
That sounded like a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion. I'm gonna move to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted and for testimony for second floor rear facade changes at 61 West 14th Street based on the local guidelines and Secretary of Interior Standard Number 9. Thank you, Mallory. New addition, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. And just to note that the new window and door should be of consistent material and style of the existing window and door.
Support.
Moved by Lambert, supported by Cook. Are there any other questions or concerns? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you,
Okay,
Dan.
Dan, privacy is just around the corner.
That's right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Very good. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dan.
The next item is a certificate of appropriateness application for 205 West 9th. This is from BVW Property Management and VRE Properties, which is the owner. I'm assuming BVW is the manager. They want to remove a side window following a fire.
Correct. And I am looking, I do not see any representative on this property here. But it's a sort of straightforward request, particularly since they've already made the improvement. They had a fire in the house. You can see a before picture, a post-fire picture, and then the current condition of the house. So there was a window. The fire impacted that window, and they removed the window and sided over, just continued the existing siding. There's the sort of the post-fire situation. And they essentially removed that window, and it's coming. And
There we go. Yeah.
So it's the same siding, matches little cleaner maybe than this up at the top, but it's essentially, it matches the existing siding on the house.
Yeah, it's interesting. That color doesn't fade as much as some, so it doesn't look like a patch.
Yeah.
It's too bad those windows, of course, they're somewhat distorted by the vinyl siding, but you know, those old slightly peaked windows, you know, with the trim, they're nice looking windows, but you know, you can see it on the house, the before picture. But
Okay, is that a piece of trim at the top, Mark? That's
yeah, it's just the trim, but it's got a nice little drip cap, and
okay.
you know, I
Yep.
mean, they're just the style of the window. It's an old style that you see in a lot of the older houses. And so I'm sorry to lose a window like that. Plus, probably it makes it darker inside the house, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a it's a kind of folk Italianate window casement,
Okay. Yeah.
or folk Victorian at least. But yeah, it's a bummer to lose that window out of that gable.
Yeah.
I suppose if they hadn't already replaced it, we might we might encourage them to save, especially that trim piece. But I don't know even what method could be used to replace it now.
So do we know historically, was there a window there? Because it looks like obviously we have replacement siding and those windows look like replacements already. So we're off from what was originally there, but was there originally a window there? Maybe, I don't know.
yeah, I think that's where the fire damage was, at that window.
I'm talking even before that, because
Oh,
the window that burned out and the siding that was there, it looks like are already replacements and not historical anyways. But when they replaced the windows throughout the house and added the new siding, who knows what kind of windows were along the side there.
well, I think the windows look original to me. It's just
Oh, you think so?
they're distorted by the you know, the siding kind of goofs them up at the top and bottom, but I feel like that's at least that's an old style of window. So I would assume it was the same kind of window that was in the house, you know, the rest of the house.
So what happened here? So with a fire, you get to make repairs immediately without approval of, you know, COA or anything like that? Or how does that work? Or are we really dealing with a situation similar to the fence where changes were made that were not approved and now we're back approving?
It's a good question. I'm not aware of any approvals that were given. I think, you know, the repair of siding doesn't require a permit. I don't know whether an inspector saw it before they went ahead and repaired it or not. I have no idea.
But does the repair in the context of a recent fire get you off the hook for asking for a COA to basically remove a window from an elevation?
Not that I'm aware of, but it, you know, it looks to me like they just didn't think about it. And
Did they apply for a
vicious
permit
way.
though, Phil?
I'm
If you know.
looking right now.
Okay, sure.
Not see one. I'm not seeing any reference to a fire or a permit at that point. No was also looking to see if there was an older photograph, but I suspect.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would not have been in favor of just eliminating windows off of elevations if it were just that simple.
Mhm. Do we know when the fire occurred, Phil?
I do not. I
Okay.
don't think it was very long ago.
Sure.
Is this something that we should table and get the owner on the line and kind of talk to him about, or figure out some of those questions that we have answers to, or?
Well, I certainly can. They were invited to this meeting,
Mhm.
and obviously they're not here.
I don't think they should. I don't think they should have done it that way.
No.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. I think regardless of the fire, I think if somebody would have come to us and said that they were taking the window out and covering it up with siding, I think we would have pushed back. And I think, you know, if there's a fire, you have some insurance funds and everything that can help you take care of it.
Yes, exactly.
So I'd rather than just denying it and moving forward, I would maybe feel like it's nice to have the owner in the meeting if he has anything to add about a situation that we might not understand, but otherwise I feel like I know what I'm thinking.
Well, and another thought I just now had is we're assuming that they've repaired the inside too, and that the window is physically gone. Maybe all they've done is put the siding up, in which case the window could be saved or could be replicated. If we had the owner here, we could ask that at least. But I shared Justin's concern that if every time someone forgets to ask us, we'd say, well, that's okay then. We've sort of set a bad policy.
Well, I think there's two issues here. One, that you're dealing with an absent owner, and we're dealing with a company that just takes care of rental properties. So I don't really know who was the person that said, let's just do it this way, and it's all okay, but somehow this doesn't set well with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would assume the rental property is the one that we need to talk to. And they're probably the one that made the decision on what to do here.
I would guess that, Justin, and they are a very large manager of rental properties. So it might be useful to have them in a meeting with us in general, because this could happen fairly often. And I certainly understand when there's a fire, they want to get things boarded up right away and that kind of thing. But I admit I never thought. Go ahead.
And they keep other houses here in our district too, so.
Yes, quite a few.
Well, yeah, they've been on the scene for a long time. I've had dealings with them, and they are, you know, they're members of this community, and they are a big rental property manager here, and rentals are a big part of the district. So it's going to make sense that you see them around. But to John's point, I think that I would like to know more about what happens in a fire where now there's a whole gaping hole in the house and there's an urgency to get you protected from the winter and things like that come into play. And they can speak to that more intelligently than I can. And then I would also like to know that I would like them to know that, you know, if they're going to be doing projects in the district, which they have been for many years, we need to make sure that we're in collaboration as opposed to, missing each other on important decisions.
Yeah, I agree, Nick. And again, because of who they are, they could be the next person that does this. I mean, that by nature of what they do, if this was an individual homeowner, we would know that that's all they own, but anyway, yeah. I guess I have them here.
I've used them for my rental property before and I've rented from them.
Oh, okay.
Actually a number of times. And so I would just say that communication would be key with them, just so that we're on the same page as them.
Let me give you just a little more information I found. There was a letter that went out February 5th, 2021, from the inspections office. We understand that there was a fire at your property, blah, blah, blah. We would like to work together and in order to assist with the reconstruction process. We ask that you please contact our office within the next 30 days. Permits will be required and we can help you with the process. Then there was a follow-up. It was a letter on, well, the inspector went out and it was cited as unfit for human occupancy. Let me keep going here. There are some fire pictures. Let's see if there's anything that shows that window any better.
So does it maybe sound like we have another situation where they were working with the building department and inspector there and never got alerted to the fact that this was a historic district item, or?
Yeah, I would say it's looking that way. They've got post-fire pictures where they've already removed the window and drywalled over it.
How did this COA come about then, Phil?
We got an email. They filed an application, so I think somebody over there spotted that it was in the historic district.
Okay.
Exterior. Yeah, what they were supposed to do on the exterior. This is a March 8th letter that cited current violations at that point. They get to, there's a paragraph on historic district. The window shall not be boarded up and removed. This property is located in the historic district. Many exterior alterations require a certificate. So they were warned about it as of March 8th. I don't know.
And Phil, is that the manager that was warned or the homeowner, the property owner?
It usually goes to the owner.
Okay, yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, BVW
Well,
property management is where it went.
We should also verify just once that this is in the district, because I know it's right on the edge.
Oh, yeah, there is kind of some exceptions there.
I'm looking for the map now.
Yep, it's in the district.
Okay, thanks, Phil.
Yep.
Well, in a way, I'm pleased to know that we didn't drop the ball, that we really gave them specific warnings not to do what, in fact, they decided to do. So
it appears from me that they took the photographs on February 22nd and then got the letter out on March 8th. And by February 22nd, it looks like, if it's the same window, it looks like they are already infilled on the inside. And may not have completed the exterior work, but the drywall on the inside appears to have been done. If that's, I don't know how many windows had damage, but if that's the one that had damage.
Mm-hmm.
And then on 315, see if there's anything else. On 315, it says historic district, the window shall not be boarded up and removed. So it says the same thing as it did the day before, or the letter before. So that's probably when they came to the realization that they needed to submit something. And had already done the work.
Um, how do people, I'm a little, I'm not clear who needs to come to the next meeting. If that really should be the manager or if the owner, I guess whoever made that decision needs to come. It seems like a very clear violation of.
It seems to me that the owner can say that the management people speak for me, and anything that you need me to
Okay.
do, tell them. If we don't get any response there, then we can talk to the homeowner, but it seems to me that, if he says all this work is going to go through the people, then deal with the people.
Yeah, sure. Wow.
Well, I would move that we table this, pending somebody showing up from the some representation by the homeowner.
And are we directing Phil to request that or?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll support that.
Moved by Cook, supported by Lambers. Is there any other comment? Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Hey,
And opposed? I heard none. Does that make sense, Phil? You see
Sure.
what your charge is?
Yep.
Okay, great. Oh, thank you. I thought it was my eyes. Item C under new business is certificate of appropriateness application for 256 West 10th Street. Stacy and Lino Ortiz. Removal of a rear shed addition and expansion and modifications to the south wing of the home. Are they with us tonight? I don't think.
I don't know.
I don't believe so. I don't see anyone representing them in the
Okay.
participant list.
Phil, I think you did request some dimensions. Was that to your liking or?
They were going to get me something in writing on it, which I have not yet received. But they describe, what I was worried about is this encroaching in the rear yard setback. But their description, it's 50 some feet away. So it's
Okay.
close to the rear. They do have a shed or a garage behind that, but that's not an issue. So I'm not concerned about that.
Okay.
There are a number of photographs in here. If you remember, this is the house, speaking of fires, this is the house that had the fire a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago. And they've still been laboring over trying to get the fire side. That, in fact, that image just to the left of that is where you approved a repair, really a reconstruction of what was an enclosed side porch there. And that enclosed side porch still hasn't been constructed yet. So they had one builder who started to get involved and then walked away from it. So they're having trouble getting projects going or completed. But now they are proposing on this back end of the building is removing, there's a shed, that's probably a good picture, right? The lower of the two here. That shed comes off a portion of that back wing of the building. It's essentially, it's a one-story, I think that's the master bedroom or bedroom back there. And that is just a little storage attachment there. They want to remove that, extend the building towards you in the photograph, but back further and then put a hip roof on it rather than or put a gable roof on it.
Gable.
Hip roof. And so they would work with that ridge line of that existing roof and extend that back so it became the gable at the end of that new addition. And then within that, they're proposing a window, which will be smaller, but similar to the window that was approved on the back side of that side porch addition. And they want to install a door to the basement on the right side of that proposed extension. So that's existing.
I have a question probably for Nick. It strikes me that my house has a gable roof on the tall part and a hip roof on the short part. And that's what this appears to be too. Would that have been typical original construction, or is that something?
There's a few different topics to consider. It's not necessarily some sort of hallmark of this type of house that it would have a gable and then a hip as the smaller piece. But hips come in handy for this little right angle between the soffit and the corner bead that you can see in this south elevation. Right now, without a frieze board of any kind, you're going to have a piece of siding that's a sharp angle, like sliver that goes into the eaves. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty inelegant detail that wouldn't have been used in traditional construction, but gets used quite commonly now. And one of the nice things about the hip style of roof is that it alleviates that completely. So that's one. Another one is the pitch of the roof. Is it a pitch that's compatible with the main house's pitch? And it's a question that's worth asking, but not to suggest that they must match either, because there's plenty of examples within the district where there's a variety of gable pitches that work together on the same house. But it's this one, that thought does come to mind because it's a pretty shallow pitch. And then lastly, I would say, kind of unrelated to your question, John, is the horizontality of the window here is not a traditional detail. This being kind of I think it's almost like there's a Greek Revival main house, and then some telescoping additions that were probably built out incrementally over time. And they would have had opening proportions that would have been more vertical, recalling kind of a masonry construction, even though it's wood clapboard.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Nick. It's very helpful. The 60-inch wide by 12-inch tall vinyl window, couple issues there. One is it's vinyl. I guess it looks more like a high, what is that word? Clerestory?
Clerestory. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
It'd be nice if it was at least sectioned, but you know. Okay.
Interesting.
You would occasionally see a casement window back in the 19 teens and 20s just turn 90 degrees to become an awning window.
Okay.
Which I always think is kind of a quaint, fun little detail. But again, on something that's, what is the year of this house? This has got to be pre-1900 for the main house.
Let's see.
1894.
Yeah.
1885. It wouldn't have been the case in 1885. That would have been more of a craftsman cottagey detail that would have been in the 19 teens and 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
it's inappropriate. I mean, the only exception, I guess I should kind of be careful with that statement of it being inappropriate. There is a Greek Revival eyebrow window that exists within the frieze of some Greek Revival houses that is horizontal. But that's not really what's going on here. It just seems to be kind of like a horizontal awning window. So I would say that would not be compatible with the. character of the house.
I don't know if we could kill two birds with one stone by saying that the shape of the window it isn't authentic, nor is the material. That we would prefer to see a wood window in that.
Yeah.
If I can share this with you, I don't know if you can.
Oh,
good view of that.
That's in the packet. That was the drawing you made, right, Phil?
Yep, that's a drawing I made based on what was talked about at the commission meeting and agreed to. So there is a, that high window is something that they're trying to, not duplicate it exactly, but something similar to that is what they're proposing. And
yeah, I think these high windows are popular right now, but they're not. They're really. I don't think that they're in keeping with a lot of the applications that we see them.
So Phil, did we already? This is what we approved in the previous meeting, and
Yes.
so we did approve a high window already.
Yes.
And this in relation to what they're asking for now is where I'm trying to like piece this all together.
Yeah, this is the porch area, the rebuilt porch area. So on that drawing of Phil's where it said high window, that's the wall, the next wall. Is that correct, Phil?
That if you were continuing around the building, that high window is at sort of right angles to the side of the house.
Right, and so that the other window would be in the same plane. I mean, the same orientation would be north facing, correct? Just like the porch window, high window.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, gotcha. Okay. I'm oriented now. Thanks.
Okay. And did we approve a vinyl window before, or is this the first time I've seen the word vinyl for?
Yeah, I think so.
I was gonna say, if we approved a high window before and we approved vinyl windows before for this, I would find it very hard for us to not be able to approve it on this portion of the build either.
True. Yeah. And there's some solace in the fact that it's rear facing, but that doesn't mean we want to give carte blanche either.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember, we were trading some aspects because wasn't this the thing that was going to have all those sliding windows? So we sort of, I don't know if cutting our losses is quite the way to say it, but I think Phil's sketch is quite an improvement. At least we got the double hung windows in there instead of the sliders.
And a wood product with a 4-inch reveal for siding is a plus.
Yeah.
Did we do anything about the hip roof? I came away thinking that the hip would be a much improved style of roof, and is what we're looking at right now, is that where the hip would come down from? I mean, or have they taken the hip and just extended it rearward?
No, I think the hip would be gone, but this would, the end of this would be the hip. If we said you've got to keep the hip roof, it would be at the end of this wall.
I have not been in the house.
Sure.
The husband indicated that they were looking for some additional headroom in whatever is on the back, and I think it's the bathroom or the closet is right on that back portion with the high window.
Sorry, go ahead.
All I'm thinking is, if there are questions about about those kinds of changes, I'd suggest you table it and get them at a meeting.
It seems like it, because if the hip doesn't cause a other difficulty, I mean, I'm looking at that, the door is presumably 6'8". Do we think
6'8", but it's destined for the basement. So it's,
okay.
the floor level is higher than that, I expect.
Okay.
Understand it.
So maybe that actual eave is something under 8 feet, or
The way he described needing headroom, I'd say that's what I expect to see inside, but again, I haven't been in there.
If he does a gable, he should include a freeze board underneath the soffit to tie those corner pieces into a freeze board so that he can fix that overhang issue.
Yeah, because when you look at the rest of the house, it's real, those panels are really prominent. I mean, that's a feature of the house, at least the front. I don't know. Yeah. If you look at the picture of the back, from looking at the back of there, one more up, keep going, keep going. What a lot of pictures. One more, there it is. See, there you see the board that Nick's talking about. So it seems like we would want them to echo that. Is that what you're thinking, Nick?
Exactly, because you can see the clapboards don't just keep running into the area of the overhang.
Yep.
They're contained, and then the freeze board meets the corner, which is that corner, that fat corner is why I think of this house as a Greek revival. I don't know if that's original, but those fat corners recall a pilaster.
Sure. And would it be typical, Nick, maybe to have that on the upright part, but a thinner version on the lower part? Or
yeah, sure, a thinner, more casual, more vernacular expression of that same thing could be really nice, because now you've got hierarchy. But we would definitely want to avoid forgetting about the eave, the elevation of that eave on the gable side.
And the drawings do at least have a small vertical corner pieces, not, so it's not just like the siding wraps around.
Yes.
I mean, they could be a little thicker, but.
In this version, I see it simply says vinyl, new horizontal vinyl. And I think our earlier approval said hardy board or some wood product, but that he would have the option to go with a high quality vinyl siding. And I don't remember discussing this on this house, but I know on several houses we've all commented that a wooden corner board, even if you are going to use vinyl siding, a wooden corner board has a much nicer appearance than the standard kind of 4x4 L-shaped corner, hollow vinyl corner. And especially once those get nicked by a car or a bicycle or something, I see an awful lot of those with holes in them, the vinyl product. I'm not sure what the procedure ought to be, but if the homeowner were here, I would ask them to consider making those a wood or a wood product piece instead of the hollow trim piece. Am I saying that clearly?
Yeah, I recall that discussion, John.
Yeah. And then there's a J channel next to it that holds the vinyl siding, as opposed to this kind of L-shaped piece. It's about a 4x4 that, as I said, I often see them, especially where there's traffic, that they get cracked and they have holes in them. And I don't think that happens so much if it's a solid piece.
Well, I think that the hollow profile piece that you're talking about wouldn't meet a freeze board as gracefully. It would probably flimsily run into the freeze board. And then what's the freeze board going to be? Mm-hmm. It's probably going to be a or a hardy board or something anyway, so we might as well just say that there should be a wood or a solid composite corner trim and freeze board type of assembly if we want to go the direction of the freeze board recommendation. And for that matter too, the window, the exterior window casements.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
Well, it seems like we can't do anything without the homeowner here. But I'm wondering if Phil can at least communicate some of those things to the people and say, you know, here's what we're looking at for changes. And if you want to come to the next meeting, be prepared to talk about them.
I will just say I'll do what I can.
Yeah, I know, Phil, you've already done more on this project than.
Well, I mean, this was the elevation they submitted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's 4 of those
Yeah.
forms. I urged them to get a hold of and gave them the names of 3 or 4 architects and builders that have done a lot of work. I can't give a specific recommendation.
Yeah,
These
sure.
folks have done a lot of work in the district. They came back with this, which I don't recognize the name on the thing, so I don't know where they found them, but one, I don't think they've got much in the way of resources, and I don't think they have any particular understanding of this. They've got a sense of what they want to see happen here, but I'm not going to design it for them.
Sure.
So, but I will share the comments you've made. I think they're all great comments.
Okay, good. Is there a move to table this?
So moved.
I'll support.
I think that was moved by Cook and supported by Lambers.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments? Phil, is there anything else you'd like from us, or are you pretty comfortable?
No,
Okay.
I get it. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Those in favor of the motion to table, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? I hear no one. Let's table that. We have one more certificate of appropriateness application, 237 West 11th. Michael Collins, infill of porch on east side of house. This is the corner of 11th and Washington.
This is, I want to say straightforward, but they haven't been, so I won't say that. This is a proposal. I think Michael's on. I think he's attending the meeting. I see his name there. This is a proposal for what would be the northeast corner along Washington Boulevard, northeast corner of the house. First floor, there's a covered porch on the first floor of the home. Changes to the front elevation. Oh, go back one. Yep, stop. Boop, boop, down one. Go to the plan, the next one. This gives you a sense, the current kitchen in the back, and then there's a covered side porch. This gives you sort of the overall sense. What they're planning to do is expand that kitchen into the side porch area. So they want to enclose that side porch. Then if you move on, you can get a sense of what that means. That's what it would spatially begin to look like for the kitchen. Next one. There's a little better begins to lay out or show how the kitchen might lay out in that. You notice windows on the rear, the north facade, those will stay. And maybe one more picture, one more image. This gives you, well, you begin to see it on the right-hand side in the back, that what's drawn as 2 stories there. The drawing didn't include the whole building, but it included the parts they're working with. Those 2, there's a window on the second floor, and the 2 windows that are shown there would be brought together on the first floor and essentially align with the 2 windows above. and you can see it in some of the other drawings, are more accurate than this one is. If you keep going, Mallory, if you go to the next images, yeah, say keep going. There's go one more. Okay, so
Yeah.
see the enclosed porch with a set of steps coming down from it. The steps and the hand railing would be removed. That area would be enclosed. You see the windows on the back. It's actually 3 windows together. They would use the same size windows, but put 2 of them. Go to the next slide. There's the area
Sure.
that's be filled in. Keep going. There's the back, and then the 2 windows together on the side is what the end result will be. And they're intending to infill all of that with the exterior of the infill would all be materials matching the existing building.
I think it's significant that this porch wasn't added on to the house sticking out. It was more like it was carved away. And I'm not even clear that that would have been an original. I mean, to have the second floor above an open porch is a little unusual.
Yeah, Michael may have more information as he's gotten into it and explored things. But yeah, you might have thought that it would have been done a little differently originally. But again, it's not a sleeping porch, which would have been on the second floor, typically. So that's essentially the proposal. I don't know, Michael, is there anything you'd like to add to that, or?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. We
Hi.
appreciate it. Thanks for your time as well. You clearly stated everything we wanted to do, so we appreciate that. We're just here to answer any questions you might have. But the idea is that the porch was not there initially when my parents moved in years ago across the street, before the house became part of that historic district. So our idea is just to fill it in, but make it match as closely as possible to everything else.
And I should throw in, you won't find 2 people more excited about getting into the historic district than they are really enthusiastic about this. And
that's nice to hear.
Yeah, we certainly want to do everything correctly, and we want to do it the right way, but we just want to make sure everything that we're doing going forward looks good from your perspective, and then any input you have would be appreciated.
Do either of you have a sense? I think maybe you just answered it, but that porch wasn't there originally, or that it was part of the house originally, or what?
My parents live right across the street on Washington and 12th, and when they originally lived there, there was no porch there to their knowledge. That came along after by the previous owner from who we purchased the house.
I get you.
So, in the last, I think they said 18 or 20 years.
Wow. So they actually carved into the house to create a porch, which seems
and took away from the interior living space, unfortunately.
Unusual. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if I've forgotten, what is the siding there? What kind of siding is it?
Vinyl? Yeah. Vinyl siding?
It is vinyl. Okay.
The sides of this house and the front, I think, have a lot of symmetry. And I'm just curious if you would think at all about centering that cluster of 3 windows below the upstairs windows. It just seems like it's really offset in a weird way, especially because it sort of goes right into the eave of the that back addition. And I don't know, looking at the internal kitchen layout, it seemed like you could put the sink anywhere you wanted in that counter space.
Okay, so then move the windows.
I mean, that's just I don't know that I would say I wouldn't approve it otherwise, but it just seems like it would be an opportunity since you're going to be doing a lot of work on that whole corner anyway to just move those windows over, but that might just be me, so.
Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable. That particular misalignment just seems a little bit awkward.
Right here.
But in this view, it looks like there are two windows and they're offset from the sink, if I read it right. And I think
Yeah,
in a
in that
different
picture,
version.
they're centered in the back wall in a way that they
Yeah.
aren't in the final rendering doesn't show them moved.
No, Mark, John, this is showing the second story. So those two windows are the two windows on the second story that
Oh,
you
I
can see
see.
there.
Yeah.
Okay,
you're right.
thank you.
Sorry. Thanks.
I see. I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're right. I see it. Now you can see, yeah, they're just kind of compressed because we're looking at
Yeah,
such a steep
squished.
angle. Good eyes, Justin. That's
Yeah.
right. Have we on the commission? Because it seems like you could just, those are cupboards probably next to it. You could just split the cupboards on either side of the window. I don't know.
Certainly.
I mean,
Yeah,
this might be a nice thing.
I agree with you. Symmetry much better than not. None of this is final, so we're open to your ideas for sure.
I guess I'd add, while we're talking about symmetry, if you run into a cost constraint or somehow it does fall out of your scope, the argument to keep it is that the symmetry on the front of the house, well, there's not a ton of symmetry, but where there is symmetry or more formality, contrasts with a lack of formality or a lack of symmetry on the back, which is something that I tend to like to see, actually. But I agree with Mark that the read of those two windows, this first story, the second story, and that misalignment in particular is a little bit jarring. But if you had to keep it, I could totally rationalize it to myself.
Thank you.
And I think more often, what happens in the back of the house has more to do with what you need inside, which is fine. In the front of the house, we might expect the symmetry, but toward the back, yeah, okay.
People with corner lots have no privacy in the back from the historic
back.
viewpoint. It's like they're exposed no matter how you look at it.
Yep, that's true.
Note, I've just found a photograph from 2002, which it does show the side porch there. So
2002.
you'd have to go back further than that if there were some changes made.
But was it the way it is now, Phil, kind of open?
Like
it wasn't screened or glass enclosed or anything?
No.
Well,
Yeah, it's certainly not a feature that I associate that with. I don't know, what is it? East Lake houses, what are those houses where they have those sort of cutout things, and not this style house, at least in my mind.
Yeah, this is a pretty standard. You would expect that plane to just continue.
Okay.
Same as your house, Mark, I think.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, the more I see that porch, the less I like it the way it is. I mean, the more I think it does belong in your house somehow. I mean, and I had a house similar to this in a different city where the kitchen was too small and it also had 5 doors and 3 windows. So putting cabinets in was not an easy thing. So I mean, I think that's maybe the number one thing we want to do with our historic looking houses on the outside is make the kitchens work better on the inside. So I applaud your design. That makes good sense.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the homeowners?
I think I'd be ready to make a motion. I would say that I would also just say we're not a design committee and we don't offer design services, but if you do have questions and want a second opinion or anything like that, just based on Phil's statement about you guys being really enthusiastic and interested in this stuff, I would just say feel free to reach out through Phil, and I'd be happy to at least kick some ideas around with Phil, at City Hall or something like that, because I like it when people are enthusiastic and looking for guidance. So I think, just speaking for myself, I would just throw that out there. But I would make a motion to approve the application for certificate of appropriateness as submitted per testimony for side porch infill renovations at 237 West 11th Street, based on the local guidelines and Secretary of Interior Standard number 9, which says that new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old, and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment.
I'll support.
Moved by Rolinski, supported by Fowler. Are there any other questions or concerns? Those in favor, please say aye.
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 And anyone opposed? And motion is carried. I share Nick's feeling that it's nice to hear people that sort of get what we're trying to do here. And we're delighted.
Well, thank you so much. We're excited. The first of many new endeavors, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry you had to wait so long. I thought it'd be good and sound asleep, but
She did well, right?
yeah, you did pretty well.
It was perfect timing. Well, thanks again to everyone for your time.
Great.
We appreciate it.
Thank
We'll
you.
probably be in touch in the near future.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody.
Mhm.
Take care.
We are back or down to committee and staff reports.
Yep. Well, you skipped one, administrative.
I'm sorry.
The certificate of appropriateness. That's a quickie. The fence, I approved a fence at 244 West 12th Street. It's a 6-foot dog-eared pine fence around most of the property, but separating the driveway from the rear yard is a 4-foot fence of similar style. So there weren't any questions or issues about that.
Okay.
Yeah, committee and staff report, update on Centennial Park Management Plan. Austin, Nick, and Kim have been part of the committee that's been working with the consultants on putting the plan together. We have a draft of the report that has gone out to the team members involved in that. And that includes the 3 from our commission. I think there's 2 active, maybe a third from the Parks and Rec Commission, and then staff that have been involved in this. We're meeting tomorrow to share comments on the draft. This is the sort of second round of comments on this. I generally think the plan is coming together very nicely. Doesn't necessarily answer or make questions easier for you when it comes to a future discussion about the greenhouse. There are 2 ideas in the document at the moment. Whether one of them drops out tomorrow or not, we'll see. But 2 of those, one is, again, this is a management plan for the park. The greenhouse is really, I won't say an afterthought, but it's intended to set the expectations for the park and then see if the greenhouses fit within that. So the notions right now is the center third, roughly third of the tropical house of the greenhouses. It's the more ornate part of the greenhouse that faces Central Avenue. The notion is that structure might find a home somewhere within Centennial Park. It's unlikely that any additional greenhouse structures would be of a scale that would be fitting in the park. So they're beginning to think that that 27 by 27 is a logical scale, and that's whether it's a fully enclosed greenhouse or whether it might be a skeleton of the greenhouse, essentially. And it could go, the conversation has involved both directions on that at this point. So that's one possibility for the greenhouse. The other possibility is there are a number of properties around Centennial Park. One in particular is illustrated, although there's no consensus that would be an appropriate location. But the question that was raised is, are there sites within eyesight of Centennial or at a much closer proximity than the current houses that might be able to help share some of the story of the history of the greenhouse and the history of Centennial Park and how the greenhouses serve the park and so forth. So from a where the commission is going to be heavily involved over the next several months, it's probably going to be in the greenhouse component of that. But there are also recommendations coming in this document that talk about a possible change in location of the memorial that is right at sort of the east end of 11th Street on the west side of the park. There's the Veterans Memorial there. There's a recommendation that's coming out to relocate that to north of the gazebo, between 10th Street and the gazebo. It's a quieter spot, a more reflective opportunity there. There's recommendations to reconstruct or at least repair, if not totally reconstruct, the fountain in the center of the park. The same kind of tufa rock that makes up that fountain is also what's around the pond. And so some repair work and maybe reconfiguration there. Changing the plaza area around the fountain and adding some additional seating and some additional walkway area. There's a management component to all of this as well. Just a variety of pieces to this that have come out of the public input and input from the committees that have been, commission members that have been working on it. It's at the point, I don't think we've gotten comments back from district commissioners that are part of the committee yet, and hopefully you'll be able to weigh in. Thinking Justin and Nick. I know Kim is, I think, swamped with some things, but to the extent we can get some any feedback from you, I sent out my comments. Carolina Marquis put together a document with her comments. I added my notes to her comments, and Jan, who's also on the Park Commission, provided comments in advance, and I've circulated those as well. But tomorrow should be a good conversation about the plan, and I know the consultant is getting at the end of their budget and they're eager to wrap it up. So next steps will be talked about tomorrow in terms of how we bring this forward. Andy Kenyon and I were talking about it this afternoon, and how we bring it to both commissions is part of the question. We'd like to get it to both commissions before it gets passed on to council. I don't know how final a form that may be, and that's part of the discussion tomorrow as well. So I guess we need to see where all of our little subcommittee members are on what's in there at this point and how comfortable they are, and where there are issues yet to resolve. But anyway, it's moving forward. It's getting close to being completed. It's an attractive document. It's very nicely put together. There's a lot of information in there. There's a lot of history added, I think, bringing Susan on with the historic preservation background and parks background, Olmsted Parks background. I think that was a good move for the consultant to them on. So I'm pretty pleased, but I've rambled. So maybe Nick or Justin, I don't know if you have any comments or if you've had a chance to get into it yet, but it's getting close, I think. The other item I had on here, and it's already 7:30, so I think it's too late to start this. But what I was going to suggest on B is preliminary conversation regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. What dawned on me when we got notice of grant funds being available for projects and properties that reflect the diversity of your community, it kind of dawned on me that I personally haven't seen anything that gives any detail to what the diversity of our community is in terms of historic structures or where significant events happened or significant people lived or any of those kinds of things. So what I'm just suggesting here is that we might begin to think about not just the district, maybe understanding the district in terms of what diversity there has been within the district, but also are we looking at as diverse a history as maybe we could be looking at. I don't have anything specific to suggest as we miss this or that, but at least begin to have the conversation about how we make sure we're including a complete history as time moves on. Any comments on that? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I have one comment that kind of goes along those lines. I would love to explore further what the role of other cultures besides the founding sort of Dutch culture has played in keeping the walkable neighborhood centers operating in many cases very vibrant. And the same goes for what I kind of call in an endearing way, like the hand-me-down older church buildings that congregations seem to have apparently vacated at some point for more modern church buildings around town, leaving these smaller scale church buildings throughout the core of the city, oftentimes then occupied by other congregations and oftentimes of other cultures. And I think that had it not been for those cultures to come in and be stewards of these walkable neighborhood commercial nodes and this sacred realm that defines or helps define the city core's fabric, we might have just lost all of that to blight. I think that's actually the story in a lot of small towns in America. And so I think there's a story to be unpacked there that really goes to the historical integrity of our urban fabric and the historic functionality of it.
Excellent. That's great.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep. Okay, and then the third thing I had on the agenda was continue to review on the National Register of Historic Districts, particularly the commercial district. And frankly, I haven't had any time to work on it since the last meeting. So I don't really have anything to report on that.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
That's all I have, yeah.
Does anyone else have anything to consider before we adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Support.
Moved by Cook and supported by Fowler. Those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed? It's carried. Thank you. We'll see you all May 4th.
Okay, thanks, John. Thanks, Phil.
Yes,
May the
thank
4th.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Mallory.
Thank you,
Take care.
Mallory.